Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. Episode 103. We had a good lineup for you ahead of UFC Orlando. First up, we're going to be joined by one half of the main event and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to preview his fight against Kevin Holland. Obviously, I always enjoy talking to Stephen. We did an interview a couple months ago where he revealed that he turned down Shavkat. He only wanted to fight a striker, and he gets his wish that he gets to fight Kevin Holland in the main event. And a fight that he's really looking forward to. He sees a lot of similarities between him and Kevin, and he's really looking forward to getting the chance to show off his strike, because he said that's what fans want to see when they watch him fight. They don't want to see him try to defend takedowns. We're then going to be joined by Kyle Daukaus to preview his fight against Eric Anders. This is a really intriguing fight. Obviously, Daukaus revealed to me it's the last fight on his deal, which is obviously interesting. He's coming off that loss to Roman Dolidze in June. And then after the fight, he actually revealed he had a lot of fractures in his face, and he was surprised he's able to get cleared this early. He thought he was going to be out for a year. He saw his doctor and he said, no, this is like an 8-week recovery thing. He got recovered and quickly got this fight against Eric Anders, which is actually a bigger fight than what he thought he was going to get. He thought he'd get someone else with a smaller name than Eric Anders, but is really looking forward to this fight. We're then going to be joined by Jonathan Pearce to preview his fight against Darren Elkins. It's obviously a big one for Jonathan Pearce coming off that win over Makwan Amirkhani. He gets another big name in Darren Elkins. He thinks this is the fight. He beat Darren Elkins. He gets a top 15 guy next. He also knows this is going to be a tough fight just because Darren can take a lot of damage and can go all 15 minutes. We then close things out talking to Natan Levy to preview his fight against Genaro Valdez. Obviously, Natan returned to the win column last time out. After that, he had to get a surgery. He dealt with a minor injury. He's ready to return, and he really look forward to this fight against Valdez, who's another striker. He thinks this has the makings to be a fight of the night, if not a performance bonus. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC welterweight Stephen Thompson, who's headlining UFC Orlando in 2 weeks? Or I guess kind of less than 2 weeks now.
Yeah,
Steven,
dude, literally less than 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, like as of yesterday or the day before, December 3rd, I am main event in Orlando, which is crazy because I haven't fought in a year. Trying to find the right fight. UFC was trying to push me with these heavy grapplers, and I just fought 2 heavy grapplers. And I'm like, give me a striker, please. People don't want to see me grapple. They want to see me strike. So, and this guy, Kevin Holland, dude, he's a freaking beast. He was doing work at 185, knocked out some of the best guys there. And then he's at 170 doing work. He's got like an 81-inch reach, which is going to be fun to navigate during the middle of the fight, which is crazy. You know what I mean? So it's going to be an exciting fight. I mean, he's an exciting fighter. I love watching him fight, and just an honor, man, to go step out there. Main event again in Orlando. I think this is the first time I fought for the UFC in Orlando. I think it is.
Yeah, and you guys had like a kind of similar path of the past couple of fights. Like obviously just getting beat by these heavy grapplers. Both you guys made it clear you just want strikers. Like, how happy are you that this is the fight that kind of came together?
Oh yeah, dude. I'm smiling. I mean, I can't stop smiling actually, just talking to you, talking to you about it. It's going to be fun. And the reason that I'm smiling, because this is what the fans want to see. You know what I mean? I hate putting on, I don't like boring fights. And whenever I fight guys, the Bilals and the Gilbert Burns, and especially the way they did it, it would have been a little bit better if they were trying for submissions and stuff. But it just wasn't an exciting fight. It just reminded me of the Tyron Woodley and Damian Maia fight. They just shoot, and the fans are just like, I don't want to see. I want to see what makes Wonder Boy, and that's his striking. So I'm excited for sure. I know Kevin is excited as well. I talked to him like a week ago. It might have been 2 weeks ago, which is really cool. And I know he's excited about it because his last performance with Hamzat, Chimaev, and of course, he retired there for a second, which is kind of interesting. And then comes out of retirement to fight me in main event, and on a really stacked card. I was surprised. I mean, you got the co-main events, awesome. You got Tuivasa and Derek Brunson, RDA, Eric Anders, Barberina. It's a really good card.
I did want to ask about that later, but I'll ask it now. Is like, how weird was it to go on your opponent's podcast? Like, that probably had to be a first for you.
Oh, man, yeah. The last time that's actually happened, it wasn't a podcast. It was with Fox, I think. Me and Tyron Woodley, they set us up to trash talk, and I just wasn't having it. He was like, he was like talking all kinds of trash, and then I was just like, man, why you got to be so mean? And he breaks character and just starts laughing. But it was cool. Like they invited me on, and I was like, let's make it happen. They're like, look, we're not going to talk about the fight. We're gonna have some fun. So we went on, we chatted. I've always been a big fan of him, just watching him and his striking. And he's fought some guys that I fought. He fought Jeff Neal. I think this was before the UFC. And him being a superhero outside of the UFC was pretty crazy. So we got to talk about that, and him, helping this dude out of a burning vehicle, and him like grabbing a gun. I guess he was in a situation where somebody was trying to rob a place, and he ended up grabbing the gun out of the guy's hand. I was like, what? This is like every dude's dream, is to be like a superhero like that. You know what I mean? Like we think about it, but it never actually happens, and it's happened numerous times to him. And I'm jealous.
With Kevin, like obviously his last fight, like I don't imagine you probably pay much attention to that just because it was like that crazy, like 24 hours change opponent. But like, what have you made of his other 2 welterweight fights where he beat Cowboy Oliveira and Tim Means?
Yeah, I thought they were awesome. I thought they were very good, very calculative fights on his part. Showed his versatility, not just with his striking, but he's very he's submission savvy as well. And he's got power in his hands, man. I mean, just watching him fight Cowboy, he hit him with that short right hook, and it didn't look like much, but it put Cowboy out, and he ended up finishing him, TKOing him, I think in the second round, I'm pretty sure. But and his toughness. I mean, Tim Means rocked him in that fight, and he comes back to finish Tim Means. So you can't take this guy lightly. The guy gets better every time you see him fight. So it shows that he's evolving as a fighter as well, which is hard to, I guess, prepare for, which is the fights I like. It reminds me of the Rory McDonald trying to prepare for that guy. That guy's good everywhere, So it's going to be fun. And I think it's going to be exciting, especially because he's a character and he likes to talk during the fight, which is nothing new to me, but still, I'm excited about it. We got a lot of guys coming from my hometown to Orlando to watch the fights, and it's going to be a good show for sure.
Do you guys have a little like handshake agreement and no takedowns then, or what?
No, I mean, there's been no handshakes, but I tell you this: if you go, I'm going to give him a high five. I'm not going to shoot under his high five to try and take him down, like Chimaev did. Remember when he goes out there to high five Chimaev, and Chimaev like shot in? And it's not going to happen. I'm going to high five him up. There's probably going to be a few high fives out there. I don't know. You know how I am. I'm always high fiving somebody. I don't know if you saw that compilation with me and Darren Till.
Yeah.
A compilation of us just high fiving each other the entire time. But yeah, man, he's good everywhere. I feel like at some point maybe he will try to, get me in a front headlock or get me up against the fence to try to use that as a leverage to, maybe to try to set up a submission or, there's so much possibilities out there. I wouldn't say it's not going to happen,
And then back to being a main event in 5 rounds. Like, do you like that? Because you passed a couple other than Jeff Neal have all been, what, like 3? Your last 4, I think, have just been 3 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I believe.
Or 4, even, 3. Your last 4, Burns, Muhammad, and Luque, and then Jeff Neal was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. I prefer the 5 rounds. I don't know why. I guess I don't know. It's just more to throw out there for the fans and to really test your abilities, your cardio, your mindset, not just myself, but my opponent as well. So I don't mind the 5-5s. And anyway, if I am preparing for a 3-round fight, I still train 5-5s. I always do championship rounds. It just gives me more confidence, stepping out there for a 3-round fight. So and it makes the preparation for a 5-round fight a little bit easier.
With this, like obviously Kevin has a bit of a reach advantage. Like, how do you kind of deal with that then? Like, are you bringing in longer training partners? I guess it's something you've been fought before, though.
Yeah, having guys with long reach. I got a lot of sparring partners. I have a brother of mine that's got an 82-inch reach. I have he's my brother. My brother Evan. He fought MMA before I did. He fought at 185. He's 6'4" and he's got an 82-inch reach. I got a buddy Evan who's not my brother Evan, but another Evan here who's, 6'4" with a, 83-inch reach. So, I've got sparring partners to help me prepare for that, you know. I mean, just that said, I mean, everybody carries their reach a little differently. Some guys use their reach to the full potential and some people don't. The way they move out there could be a little different, maybe seem a little bit longer, maybe because of his movement. I don't know. But guys use their reach so differently. It's crazy. But I do believe that Kevin Holland's going to use it to his advantage for sure. Try to keep me at bay and pick me apart.
I know you obviously train hard for every fight, but is there a bit more like excitement training for this one compared to the last two, just because you don't have to worry a ton on the wrestling?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it does make camp a little more fun. And the leading up to the fight, it's a little more fun. I know that we're going to put on a show, and that's what we want to see. That's what the UFC wants to see. And just going out there and making it fun for everybody, what makes it exciting. When you know you have a heavy grappler, it's like, it's not. It's kind of hard to get behind. It's like this guy's just going to shoot on me the entire time. That's it. And it's just like, defend, and next thing you know, the fans are out there booing you, and it's like, come on, man. It doesn't make for a fun fight, and this fight here is what it's all about. That's why I'm in this sport, is for fights like this. So I'm excited.
How do you kind of see it playing out? Because credit to Kevin, like he's a very durable dude. Like went the 5 rounds with Brunson and Vittori. Like even when he was rocked at welterweight, like he recovered pretty quickly.
Yeah, dude. I know that he's durable. I know he's tough. I fought durable fighters before in Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal and a bunch of other guys. And, he's fought some scary dudes at 185 that couldn't put him away. Was it Thiago Santos, I think, right? I was like, golly, he fought that guy?
Yeah, he took it on like a couple days notice too.
I know, it's crazy. But so I know he's durable. So I've, mentally, I don't go out there looking for the knockout. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. But I focus on just the hardest fight imaginable, and that's what I prepare for.
Is there any pressure on you going in this one just because you've lost 2 in a row and you haven't fought in like a year?
No, man. There's no. I feel like there's no pressure. This is my job here at karate school. This is my job. I fight for the fun of it. I don't have to fight to make a living. So I do it for the fun and to be entertaining. And I love it, and I'm still doing it because it's a way that I can test myself to see how far that I can go, mentally, physically, emotionally, as an athlete. That's why I like to compete as well, because it forces me to be better every day, And I think that's what life is all about. Try to better yourself with the time that you have here, and with the craft that I've been blessed with, and that's my goal. So, yeah, man, I'm all in.
You get past Kevin, like where do you think that kind of puts you in the division? Like I think you're 6th or 7th right now. Like obviously he's an unranked guy, but it just kind of gets you back in the win column.
Yeah, it gets me back in a win column, but it prepares me and boosts me to fight somebody that is maybe ranked above me. You got some guys that I've fought before, Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque. I know Jeff Neal's, I think, ranked above me right now. He's getting ready to fight Shafkat, I believe. But prepare for probably another grappler, because our weight division is stacked with a slew of grapplers. So I have to get better there as well.
I know you said you just fight for fun, but like 40 next year, like have you thought how much longer you got in this? Because you're still fighting at a high level.
I know, man. It literally has not crossed my mind. Everybody else is talking about it, and I don't know why, because I just got laid on the last 2 fights and didn't take any punishment. My Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal fight, I took more punishment out of those fights than I did my last 2 fights. I literally came out unscathed, like no marks, no bruises. You know what I mean? So like, I feel good, man. I really do. People are talking about it, but I'm like, why? I'm still ready to rock and roll. And training camp is easy. There's no time in training camp where I'm like, golly, I'm not healing up, or I'm too tired. Not at all.
Just a couple more things. Like obviously, there's a new champ in the division since the last time we talked. Like, what you make of obviously Leon being the champ, and probably excites you a bit more now that the strikers holding the belt.
Yeah, man, I really am. It goes to show. I mean, number one, we got to see a side of Jeff. Excuse me, um, Leon Edwards that we hadn't seen. I mean, his versatility out there at a high altitude, fighting a heavy grappler with cardio, getting up, taking him down, guy who's never been taken down, and putting him to sleep. A guy, with a head kick at the end of the fifth round was just amazing. I mean, all that combined was just. I mean, it was wild, man. It was wild. I know they have a rematch, um, and it could possibly go the same way. But it's great to see another striker hold the belt for sure, and to a guy that has deserved it for a while now. It was like on an 11 fight winning streak. It's like, when does this guy fight for the title? And he finally got it. So hats off to him, man. I'm happy for him.
And especially because you two have been like linked for a fight for a long time. Like when he couldn't get a fight, I remember that was what your first ever call out, I think it was. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like destined you two should have been fighting.
I know, man. I mean, I didn't have a fight. He didn't have a fight. I was trying to make it happen. He was like, "Nah, man, I'm going for the title." And that, it was understandable. He should have fought for the title a while back, and he was waiting for that. But you never know. In the future, we could probably be facing each other, which I think would be a really good fight for sure. But I got to win this fight in 2 weeks first, man. I got my man Kevin Holland coming up, and I know he's game and ready to rock and roll. And you know, let's make it happen. Can't wait, man. Hopefully you'll be watching.
Yeah, and just another guy I want to talk about is guy you said you'd like to share the octagon with is Adesanya losing. Like, what you make of that fight? Because that was crazy.
Man, and at the end, I saw that he was fatiguing for sure. I mean, he almost finished him in the first round, Alex, but man, his durability was crazy. He just came back and finished him. He caught Adesanya reaching, and when you got a guy with a long reach like that and heavy hands, you cannot be reaching. And he was backed up against the fence. I think that's what Alex was trying to do the entire time. It enables him to move and evade Alex's strikes, and he played it well. He got caught, got TKO'd, but I think the rematch has definitely lit a flame in him, and the way that Stylebender has taken this loss shows the honor that he has. You know what I mean? He wasn't pounding about it. He took the loss well, and he's going to be better from it.
Just one other guy I want to touch on is obviously Weidman. Like, do you think he fights next year? Like, obviously coming back from that leg injury is like a lot to overcome, but everything. Whenever I talk to you, he said he's always in the gym training. Like, do you think we see him next year?
Oh yeah, he'll be here tonight actually,
Yeah.
helping me get ready for this fight. So we got a grinder going to be happening this tonight, doing some mitt work, some wrestling with Chris, and some battle ropes. Just from here on out, it's just straight cardio, making sure the cardio is ready. But he's coming in. He only lives like an hour and a half away now. So yeah, hopefully next year we'll see him back out there, and I'll be helping him get ready, man. I think he wants to do it. He doesn't want that last one to be it. He wants to get out there and do it again. So I'll do everything I can to help him prepare for it.
And just final thing, like you get past Kevin, like what is kind of the goal then for you next year? Like it can set you up to have like a pretty big year and hopefully a more active year.
Yeah, I know, man. That's for sure. Is making sure that I'm healthy and after this fight and to get back out there as soon as possible. But yeah, after this fight, especially with a good win, I'm ready to get back out there and do it again against somebody that's ranked above me. I'm excited to see what the future holds, and with these next up and coming fights that these guys have got booked, to see who comes out on top, and that's who I will be facing. So I don't think there will be any call outs after this fight. We'll see what the UFC has, but I'm prepared for whatever.
Well, Steven, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this.
Anytime, my friend. Sorry about last week, buddy.
Yeah, all good. All right, we're jumping UFC middleweight Kyle Daukaus, who's back in action in Orlando here pretty soon. Kyle, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, obviously last fight like didn't go your way. Like, what do you take away from that? Just because it was so quick. Obviously, like he caught you with that knee.
I mean, in my opinion, there's not really much to take away from it because it was so quickly. I said it before. I didn't really feel like I fought that night. It was so quick. Like it was so like it just didn't feel. It felt weird. Like I was in the hotel room after the fight, and I was just like, I didn't feel like I fought. I was, in a lot of pain. Obviously, it was my face and stuff. But yeah, it just felt weird. It was just a weird night. Obviously, it wasn't my night. Hats off to Roman for, getting in there and doing his thing. But yeah, it wasn't too severely of a loss for me that like I'm like dwelling on it. I dwelled on a lot of losses that I've had prior. They've really bothered me before. But this one kind of just like, the next day I woke up, I moved on and then moved forward. Like, it's just like, I didn't have like the regret that I had before in other fights. Like I could have pulled the trigger on this, could have did this, could have did that. Obviously I could have done things in the fight that I could have played in my favor, but it didn't play that night, but it is what it is.
What was the full like injury then after?
So I had two cheek fractures, and then I had one orbital fracture underneath my eye. I left Austin on that Sunday. I was actually in the hospital Saturday night until like 12 o'clock. I got back to my hotel room around 12. Flew home in the morning, and then I went to the Jefferson Hospital here in Philadelphia because I had surgery year prior on my eyelid because I had a bad staph infection. So I went to that same doctor to see what he could do. He suggested I go to a different doctor. The doctor that actually did my surgery for this recent surgery was the same doctor that did Joel Embiid's surgery. So it was good to have somebody that was confident in what they were doing. But yeah, I had two cheek fractures, one orbital fracture. So they went in, put a plate in over my cheek, and then I have like a mesh net underneath my eye socket just to keep my eye elevated. And they said eventually, within a couple of weeks, it would have molded to like my bone and created like another like kind of plate underneath there. So yeah.
When you like were posted on Twitter about like all your injuries, I thought you were not going to fight again this year. So like, when did you kind of get cleared, and like when did you realize that you could get one more in this year?
So I got cleared 12 weeks after my surgery. I figured I would have been out for a year. I really figured I would have been out for about a year, maybe a little bit more, based off of my injury. Mentally, I wasn't really like in the spot to kind of deal with all that. So I kind of took a step back and kind of just focused on like recovery. I was like, all right, what can I do recovery wise right now just to make sure that like I'm all good mentally and physically and stuff like that. So I listened to my doctors. Obviously, I didn't take a punch for 12 weeks or so after that. Surgery wasn't really that long. It was a couple hours. I was in the hospital and I was out about like midday the same day. So that was good. But yeah, there wasn't really like any rehab or anything that I could do. My face was really, really numb. And that was about all that was like really severe about it because of the nerve damage that I had. I didn't have too much. I had a lot of bruising on the nerve that like is like down at your cheek here. I didn't have a lot. I didn't like have like anything torn or anything like that. So feeling came back, and it's still coming back now. But yeah, I got cleared 12 weeks afterwards. I talked to my doctor, actually, my Dr. Heffelfinger, who was the guy who did my surgery. And he asked me, he was like, how long do you think you're going to be out for? And I said, probably a year. I mean, I don't know. It's based off of what you think. And he actually said, no, it was like 8 to 12 weeks to be able to take a punch. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And he's like, yeah. He was like, you should be good at 8 to 12 weeks. And I was like, all right. So I had scheduled to see him actually in 14 weeks after the surgery. But I pushed it back because I remember I was like, he said 12. He said 8 to 12. So I saw him around the 10 to 11 week mark. He said I was cleared and I was good to go. I got cleared about like a month and a half ago or so, a little bit more than that. And yeah, after that, it's kind of funny. I got this contract to fight Anders like 2 weeks before I even got cleared to fight. And I was like, listen, like I'll take the fight, definitely. I just want to make sure I can get cleared and we're good to go. And they were fine with it. I waited like a week, signed the contract, got cleared, and then jumped right into camp.
Like in practice, are you just like basically just like the first one? Or are you just kind of hoping someone punches you in the eye just to see how it feels? Like obviously you don't want to get hit, but like, is that sort of just like mentally, like, like, oh, nothing's going to happen?
I mean, the feeling of my face like still wasn't fully back a couple like weeks prior. Like my first week of actually coming back to training, I didn't spar for I think like 2 or 3 weeks. I just wanted to get comfortable, like people like touching me, like that really like grinding against my face, like making sure my head positioning was good in different spots. And also like getting caught in submissions and stuff like that, getting choked. I wanted to make sure that everything felt fine, like in my face, because, you know, a lot of the blood, obviously circulation kind of takes away from that from being choked. But I just made sure that everything was good there, and it was. And then my first day back sparring, obviously I wear headgear when I spar just to be smart. I'm not really big on taking any brain damage during training or anything like that. But during sparring, I just kind of walked forward, made sure I got hit. I told myself, I said, listen, like, two things are going to happen. One, it's either going to hurt and I have to just push through it and it's going to be fine, or it's not really going to be that big of a deal. Like, I can't make it a big thing of getting hit. Like, I can't be scared to get hit, because I know going back into a fight, like, I can't be scared to get hit. I have to make sure that I'm, you know, capable of getting hit and not really worrying too much about like being too like anxious about like my face and being too like scared to get hit and stuff like that. So I just mentally like just went in and I was just like, first punch, hopefully the person hits me good and I'm good to go. My first shot, I think, was against my brother. He hit me pretty good, and I was like, all right, like, it's not that bad. So yeah, everything's good now. So.
And then you get the offer, and it's Orlando too. Like, how exciting was that? Because that was something we talked about in our last interview. Was you want to fight in front of fans? Didn't go your way. Like, didn't really get to experience much of it. Now you're back in front of fans. Like, how exciting was that? Because there's a lot of Apex shows at the end of the year. Like, and you were just lucky to get on one of these ones outside of there.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I was like super excited to fight in front of fans in Austin, and, you know, it didn't go my way. And it was early in the card. Like, I was the first fight of the night. That too. Like, there wasn't a lot of fans there either, so it was kind of like I was like, all right, like, it's a good like build up or whatnot, like, to get used to it. And I felt good. And then I heard that the fight card was in Orlando. I forget when it was. And I was like, not totally sure it was in Orlando or not. And I was like, maybe not. Like, it doesn't matter if it is or whatnot. But then they actually said like it was. And I was like, oh shit. Like, all right, like, I have another fight in front of fans. Like, now I can go out there and like prove myself. Not that I shouldn't have a different mindset when I'm fighting at the Apex or anything like that, but it's always better to perform better in front of fans. I think, because they kind of back you, and then like you get a lot of build up off of that. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I was like, all right, like, it's fine. I'll probably be the first or second fight. Like, I get like I was last time. Everything was good. And then I saw the fight card, and I saw him the first fight on the main card, and I was like, this is going to be different, obviously, but it's good. It's what I want. You know, this is something that you have to want, like, you have to be used to. Like, and again, prior to this, I was so excited to fight in front of the crowd. I felt like it kind of like was a crutch a little bit, because I was like, man, like the fans, all this, all that. Like, it's my first experience in front of the fans for the UFC and whatnot. But yeah, I mentally now for this fight, I'm not even worried about the fans. I'm not even worried about, you know, the ceremonial weigh-ins or anything like that. I'm worried about getting in there and getting my hand raised. I have to get my hand raised this fight, and it's the biggest thing on my mind right now. And I look forward to getting my hand raised on December 3rd.
And with Eric, like, he's a pretty big name, like, headlined a card against Machida, like, fought a lot of these headlined card against Thiago Santos. Like, how kind of excited were you when you got this name? Because he's like he's probably the biggest name you fought, maybe I other than Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I was very surprised that they actually gave me him, just because of his name and the guys he's fought. Like, when I watch his when I watch his fights and do film studies and stuff like that, like, this dude's fought Machida, he's fought Thiago Santos, he's fought Gerald Mearshart, he's fought, you know, Andre Muniz, who is one of the ranked guys in my division right now. Like, this guy's fought guys, and he's fought a lot of guys that have a ton of experience. He also himself has a ton of experience as well. But I do think the fight plays into my favor, obviously. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I think it's a good fight for me coming back right now. I do believe that kind of matched up based off of, you know, I'm coming off of a loss and he's coming off of 2 losses, I believe. So I think that's kind of how they got this matchup together.
With Eric, how do you think you match up against him? Like, obviously, very powerful punch, like, has a lot of knockouts, like, pretty good takedown defense with his like football background. Like, how do you think you match up against him?
Yeah, I think I match up well against them. I think my whole style plays into my favor. He's very good. He's very tough. I know he's going to be there in there to fight, and he's very, very hard to put away. We obviously all know that his ground game is kind of, you know, not a strong suit. I am a black belt in jiu-jitsu. But again, I can't underestimate anybody based off of what belt they are or whatnot. This is MMA. MMA jiu-jitsu is completely different than just basic jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, people think that the fight plays in my favor on the ground more than it does standing. But me, myself, I think it plays into my favor both standing, on the ground against the cage, in the clinch, anything. I've been working with a kickboxer from Italy, Jordan Valdenoci, who was a new guy that I got linked up with through my manager. He actually works with Alexa Grasso and somebody else. I forget who it was. And he's been sending me through Zoom like combinations I need to do. He's been watching my sparring and really helping me out striking wise to get out there and actually perform my striking in the gym that I do in the cage. So his drills are making me feel really good. It's a lot of repetitions that I'm getting. I've done a lot of repetitions jiu-jitsu wise. So I'm just getting the same feeling standing wise as well. So it's good to kind of take a step back and focus more like on my striking as opposed to my jiu-jitsu for this one.
Do you is striking something like a big part of your game you're working on? Just because with every person that's good on the ground, the better you're striking, kind of makes the ground game that more dangerous, because then it's not just only worrying about where your hips are and kind of defending takedowns.
Yeah. I haven't really, I teach kickboxing at my gym that I train at Martinez BJJ. So, obviously I'm always, studying striking and stuff like that. As far as actually doing striking drills and stuff, I kind of got away from those. But for this fight, it is it's my last fight. So to be clear and honest, it's my last fight on my contract. This is do or die for me. So I have to kind of do whatever I can to actually to get this win. I have to train with other guys I want to train with. I have to make sure that I get the drills in that I need to drill and do all this. And I'm putting 100% into it, and 100% is, it's 50% striking, 50% grappling, and I'm evening them out and making sure that I'm getting the striking drills in that I need to get in for this fight.
Are you working with anyone else, bringing other people in, or is it just kind of the usual people you're working with?
That's just the usual guys. We occasionally go to wrestling on Fridays with I wrestle with Joe Pfeiffer and Petrosky and all them. But that's just one day a week. But as of right now, it's the same old guys. Nothing's really changed. Besides, going with them and training with them, getting good looks with them.
With this one then, how do you kind of see it playing out?
I think it plays out in many ways. I don't think that it's going to be really back and forth. I really feel like I'm going to be dominant in this fight. I have to go out there and be dominant. As if I get it to the ground, it'll end quickly. But if it's standing, I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be able to showcase my striking ability. And if it does go to the ground, obviously, I believe it's going to be a quick night.
How much pressure is on you then? You just said, it is the last fight in your deal. Do you like having that kind of pressure where it is the last fight? Or I guess I know some people like when it's kind of those do or die, and then other people obviously fall under the pressure.
I mean, I do like it because it takes me back to kind of when I was unsigned and I was trying to get signed in a way, because it kind of lit a fire under my ass, honestly. I haven't performed to the best of my ability throughout, my UFC career. Getting signed to the UFC, I haven't performed to the best of my ability. This with it being my last fight, I asked my manager, I was like, do you think we can talk to them about renegotiation or whatnot? And they're like, nah, you have to fight. We talked about it, and they want me to fight the contract out. So I'm like, all right, I got to make sure that I can go out there and do something spectacular to make these guys sign me again. It's something that, it's my job that I have to do this. I have to go out there and win. I have to get my hand raised, and I have to be dominant in order to get that other contract. And that's how I'm looking at it. There's no ends, ifs, or buts about it. I don't think a decision against him is going to get me a new contract. So I'm going out there for the finish and making sure that I get it. But as for the pressure and stuff, I put pressure on myself every single fight. I would lie to you and say that there wasn't a little bit of extra pressure for this one because it is my last fight. But I'm making sure I'm doing everything in my ability to be the best that I can be on December 3rd.
Just a couple more things. You do get that finish over Eric. Where do you think that puts you in the division? Because you've always been a guy you're always kind of right near those rankings. Obviously the loss to Roman, but you beat Eric. He's a guy that you look at the guys that beat him. It's Muniz. It's some of these top guys right near the rankings.
I mean, hopefully I can, still be on the cusp of that ranking. I don't think they're going to give me a rank guy right away. Although it would be ideal. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, but not too much focus on it right now. I'm kind of just focusing on this fight for Eric because I'm not guaranteed anything after this. If I do get when I do win in December, I'm still unsure if they're going to sign me again or not. You know what I mean? So, I'm just trying to do the best that I can to make sure that I do get signed afterwards, and make sure that I can still have a job after this. You know what I mean?
Just the last thing I want to talk about is obviously your brother's fighting a week after you. Like, how beneficial is that in camp? Or you guys are going for around that same date?
Yeah, it's good. We did this prior when he fought Shamil and I fought Kevin Holland the week after him. We kind of did the same thing. We have camp together, so everything's great. We're kind of doing our workout, we're doing everything together, all the workouts and everything like that, making sure that he's at the gym, making sure that I'm at the gym, pushing each other the best that we can. But yeah, it's always exciting to train, like have a camp together, because when we don't have a camp together, it's kind of like one of us is either in or out of the gym, not as much as the other one, even though we should be. But this one, we're both dead set on being in the gym when we need to be, getting the repetitions in that we need to get. My brother's working with Jordan as well, with the striking coach, so he's getting his drills in as well as I'm getting my drills in. And yeah, it's exciting. We're going to fly from, obviously we fly from PA to Orlando, and then from Orlando we're going right to Vegas. So we have all week in Vegas to train and get him ready for his fight on the 10th.
And it's a really good fight against Jairzinho. Like, if Chris beats him, like, he's kind of right back in that mix again.
Yeah, it's something that he needs. It's a fight that he needs. It's a fight that he, needs to kind of showcase his skills as well. Show that he's not just a striker. Show that he can like mix it up on the ground and mix it up against the cage and stuff like that. I think it plays very, very well in my brother's favor. I think my brother's more well-rounded than Jairzinho is. Obviously, we all know that Jairzinho is a very heavy striker. I didn't really see a lot of ground game from him, but I think the fight definitely plays in Chris's favor.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
No problem, man. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we're joined by Jonathan Pearce, who's got a big fight at UFC Orlando. Jonathan, how's it going, man?
Good. How y'all doing?
I'm doing well. Like, obviously, a pretty big fight here. Darren Elkins, like, one of the bigger names in this division. Like, how kind of excited were you when you got this call? You'd be fighting Darren.
I was pretty excited. I think it's just a next step for me, and been a long time coming, so pretty excited.
Were you surprised it wasn't a ranked opponent though?
Not really. Like, I'm just gonna do a slow climb, like no need to rush it. Get another win, get another paycheck,
And then how excited were you when you found out it would be in Orlando in front of fans?
I was real pumped because this is the first time I've gotten a fight on the East Coast. So I got like 50, 60 people coming to this fight. Really excited about that. Probably the most people that's ever came to see me fight since I started fighting. So
does that add a bit of pressure then? Knowing like there's going to be so many people?
I think it does add a little pressure, but at the same time, like, you're going to have all those people cheering for you. So, there's an advantage as well.
With Darren, like, obviously coming off that win over Tristan Conley, like, what have you made of his last couple fights?
I think he's a slow starter. He's made his money by submitting people, getting a side choke or guillotine. So just going to be on the lookout for that. And let's see if we can not let it go 15 minutes. That's my goal. So
Darren's obviously known for his cardio. Like, his nickname's the Damage for a reason, because he can obviously take a lot of damage and still survive it. Like, how do you prepare for that? Just because we've seen him pull off these like crazy upsets where he kind of lets guys gas themselves out.
Just fight smart. We just got to be perfect for 15 minutes. So that's all I got to do is go out there, fight perfect for 15 minutes and go home. Hopefully if I do it right, it'll be shorter than that. So that's kind of where my head's at with that.
He is a very tough guy to finish. Like, obviously Cub finished him, like Ricardo Lamas finished him, but like the champ and Alexander Volkanovski couldn't even finish him. Like, how do you kind of see this one playing out?
It could go the distance. It just depends how the fight plays out. Like, I could catch him with something good or, but my goal is to go in there and finish this fight.
Is he someone like you kind of grew up watching? Because like for me, that was like he was kind of one of the main guys I kind of grew up watching.
Yeah, he was one of the main characters and definitely was a fan, at one point.
Do you think this is similar to that Lozon fight where it's like getting that vet and like kind of that respected guy?
Yeah, I think we're starting at square one. Like if I would have started at 55, or at 45, but I need to learn that lesson, and it wasn't like I fought a nobody. It was Joe
Mhm.
Lozon, and so let's see what happens.
Is there a bit of like a chance to kind of right that wrong then by beating this guy after losing to Lozon, or do you kind of not even think of that?
Nah, that's kind of behind me at this point. Like I don't even remember the last time I fought because I'm so focused on the next one. So just kind of going to the whatever's next, whatever's in front of me. That's what we're gonna do.
You showed off your very good ground and pound again. Like, are you expecting this fight to play out a lot on the mat like your last couple have?
I think if I want to take it there, it'll be there. I think he's definitely going to try to take it to the mat. But let's see what these hands can do. Let's see what the stand up is. Let's see how much I've grown since I've been out here in 4 years.
I know you always want the finish, but like, do you put any pressure to get the finish? Is it more just about getting your hand raised?
It's definitely about the finish because who wants to fight for 15 minutes? You know what I mean? And then you get that 50K, or have a chance at getting the 50K because you got the finish. So that's the real motivation, and also to just set the gap, to let people know, like, I'm just not here to participate.
And then even though it is a fight night, like this is one of the better fight nights they've done this year. Like a lot of big names on the card. Like there's RDA, there's obviously Wonderboy, Kevin Holland, Tai Tuivasa. Like, what's it like for you to be part of this one? Because this is one of the biggest cards you've probably been on.
It's full circle, like I used to train, like I got to fight with him on Valor, and this is like full circle to be able to fight with him again on the UFC card. And not only that, Tracy is another one of my teammates that'll be on the card as well.
Do you like that? Like having a couple of your teammates come down with you, like will obviously make fight week probably a bit more enjoyable having them around.
Yeah, I like it. It's a little different, but I like it.
And then with this one, like, where do you think a win over Darren puts you in this division? Because like he's kind of that respected veteran. You'd be on a nice winning streak, like still undefeated at featherweight.
I don't know where I stand in title contention, but I definitely think I deserve whatever I asked for under that. Like maybe not top 5, maybe top 10, maybe top 15. So we'll just see. I'll give them some names. We'll see what they come back with, and got to get through this one first, though.
Is that something like you and your coaches kind of think about names to call out before? Do you kind of do that on your own?
No, I just kind of go with the flow, and like whoever's next in line, like I try to climb at least by like 10 each time I fight, and yeah.
Oh,
Whoever's next.
Obviously the last fight for you this year, like how happy are you with how this year went? Like obviously started with that short notice fight against Christian, like him stepping up on short notice. Then you go out there and beat Mac one pretty convincingly, and now you get this third fight. Like how happy are you with how this year played out?
I think it's been a busy year. I really enjoyed it. I might do 2 fights next year instead of 3. Just depend upon how they go, because I've been in camp literally all year long. So I like it. It's nice, but time for a little break after this. Maybe 2-3 months. Try to let the body recover and come back.
Yeah, probably just enjoy like Christmas and the New Year's, and then what? Probably when is kind of that time frame for a return?
Probably I'll get back in the gym maybe in mid-February around Valentine's Day after this one. Because like literally all year long, like I didn't take, like I probably trained over 600 times this year. So I know I got at least 1,000 hours in.
Just a couple more things is you're going obviously back to the bigger octagon. You fought it there at UFC 266 with that one. Do you think that plays much a role in the fight, or is it kind of the same thing as any other fight?
I think for me, it's a lot different because the experience, like he's going to be the more experienced fighter, and he's fought in the bigger cage. I've only fought in the bigger cage when I fought Lozon, I think, and maybe Omar Morales.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different for me, but also like if he's going to be a wrestler, try to hold me up against the cage and take me down, it kind of works to my advantage, gives me more room to play around in.
And just final thing, like you kind of touched on it a bit, but just kind of further expand, like what is kind of the goal then for you next year? Like I imagine you get past Darren, you're either fighting a ranked guy or in the rankings. Like what's kind of that ideal 2023 look like for you?
I just want to stay undefeated and let's break the top 10, top 15.
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. All right, we're jumping UFC lightweight Natan Levy, who's back in action here pretty soon. Natan, how's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Obviously returning on Saturday. Like, is this a bit longer of a layoff than I imagine you expected after your last fight?
No, it's not too long because I had a minor knee surgery. So I had a meniscectomy done. So I wanted to, heal properly and get to the fight in proper shape.
When were you like able to fully train again then after the surgery?
I think it was I had it in June or July, and I think like a month later, 6 weeks later, I was pretty much back to being able to do everything, but I just was a little bit out of shape, so I had to kind of go slow.
And then you get this call. It's a fight night card, but it's one of those rare ones in front of fans. Like, how excited were you when you found out it's not just going to be at the Apex?
Yeah, actually, I signed the contract for the fight, and I didn't even know it was outside of Vegas. And then I got the news a couple of days later, and I was thrilled about it. I think, like, as far as fight night goes, that's like the closest thing you can get to a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
There's no title fights in the main event, but the card is stacked, and it's going to be a great card. I'm looking forward to being the best fight on the card and getting a bonus, but I know it's going to be rough competition, so me and Valdez are going to have to push it.
Yeah, like before you get into your fight, like being a part of this card, like what's it like for you? Like there's a ton of big names on this card.
It's awesome. That's the kind of thing you aspire to when you sign with the UFC. When you become a fighter, you want to fight on those big cards in front of big crowds. And also there's going to be a lot of energy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear my corner, which can hurt you in a fight, but the energy from the crowd is something different.
And then how familiar were you with your opponent in Genaro Valdez?
I was pretty familiar with him. I saw him on the Contender Series. I saw him fight live. I was impressed by certain things, less impressed by other. And, I'm looking forward to the challenge.
His debut, like, obviously lost to Matt Pravola, who we've seen go on a pretty nice run lately. Like, what do you take away from that? Because obviously that's a tough guy to fight in your debut.
Yeah, this fight, I take away like the positive from it, which is he was very hard to knock out. Yeah. And Matt's got hammer for hands, and he put him through a beating, and at the end broke him. I feel like that's not my way of doing things exactly. I'm gonna have a different strategy for the fight, and I can appreciate how tough he is and what a hard matchup he is for me, but I know like I'm gonna win.
And then your last fight, like obviously getting back in the win or getting that first UFC win, like how much more confidence does that give you going into this one? Just now that you're back on that, back in the win column.
It helps, I don't think like I only have one loss my whole career, amateur and pro. So it was kind of a big blow for me to go from undefeated to UFC debut. I was sure I was going to win this fight and losing it. But on the other hand, it doesn't diminish like the fighter I am. I didn't get destroyed. I didn't get submitted or knocked out. I just lost strategically in a few points. So I know I'm still, even with the loss, without the loss, I'm a great fighter, and I intend to show it this week.
How do you think you match up against Valdez?
I think I'm better than him pretty much everywhere, to be honest. I do think he's got like, a lot of aggressiveness and forward pressure, but he also guesses out pretty hard. Like that has a cost. So, I don't plan to go anywhere, and I'm going to be in his face like he's going to be in mine. And if I'm not going anywhere, I think he's going to guess.
That is something that I did want to touch on. Is like a lot of his wins are by first round finish. Like, do you think the longer the fight goes, then the more it benefits you?
Yeah, I think so. But also, you can't just like stay in first, second gear and wait for him to get tired because he's coming for you. So I'm gonna have to hit him with some big shots as well. But I know that the more the fight takes place, like the longer it takes place, that's gonna be in my advantage.
Do you expect the fight to mostly play out on the feet with you two, or do you think it's gonna hit the ground at some point?
I think it's probably gonna be a lot on the feet. But an MMA fight is a crazy thing. It goes everywhere. Usually, if you plan on something, it's gonna go the complete other way. So I kind of stopped, planning too much about if a fight is gonna go to the ground or on the feet. I have a game plan for the striking. I have a game plan for the grappling, and of course, if I see my opportunity to get a good takedown, I will. If I don't see it, then I'm fine with striking.
The bigger octagon as well for these fight night cards. Like, how do you think that's going to play a role in the fight?
Again, I think it's going to go to my advantage. Bigger octagon, I can move when I need to move, and I do plan on fighting for the center of the cage and hold my ground. But if I want to move, then I can move. In those small cages, you take 2 steps back and you're already hitting the fence. It's harder.
Have you talked to like any teammates or anything about kind of fighting in front of that big crowd? Because this will be your first experience, like fighting in front of tens of thousands of people.
I actually had my first ever amateur fight in front of 18,000 people. So I'm familiar with it. It's going to be a different energy in the UFC, I'm sure, and especially with the fight that we're going to put on. But I've fought in front of crowds up until 2020. And like I said, I might hear my corners a little bit less, but the crowd gives you crazy energy. And even when you feel like you're tired and you can't go anymore, there's something to it that pushes you to go harder.
How do you kind of see yourself winning this one then?
I don't really plan on anything. I know I can finish him with the right time shot. It can be a knockout, definitely can be a submission or a decision, but I don't see it really going to a decision. I think, like I said, I think he's going to guess and I'm going to finish him earlier.
Do you put any pressure on getting a finish? Or is it more just kind of getting your hand raised?
I do want to get a finish, and I wouldn't mind getting a bonus. But when you get desperate for a finish, you never find it. All the fights that I finished, I was just doing my thing, doing my game plan. When I saw the opportunity, I took it. And people will give you that opportunity. If you're desperate for it, that's usually how you lose a decision, which is kind of the story of my first UFC fight. I lost because I was chasing a knockout too much and throwing too big of strikes, and I was losing my footing. I think, I'm going to do my thing, and the finish is going to reveal itself.
Obviously, you would never want to lose. Like, I imagine you'd rather retire undefeated. But, like, is that loss a good thing now in hindsight? Like, learning that kind of thing, how you don't go chasing knockouts and, like, learning actually what to do in those scenarios?
Look, you can learn from your wins or you can learn from your losses. Usually, I prefer learning from my wins. But, it is what it is. I can't say I'm happy that I lost, but this is life. Sometimes you lose, and you better learn from it.
What you get your hand raised here and say it is a finish, like 2 wins in a row. Like, where do you think that puts you in the division?
Against a tough opponent like Valdez, I think that really bumps me up. But I right now I need to focus on him. Can't focus too much on what's after.
I know you train out in Vegas. Like, who were the main people you were working with for this camp?
I train, with Extreme now. So Coach Eric worked a lot with me. A lot of new things coming from a different camp. Everything is new, so I had a blast learning the new techniques and the new like training style. And there's so much talent over there on the mat. It's hard to name everybody, but obviously working with Coach Giff like I always do, and just a bunch of guys who helped me like Mateos and Julian DeRosa and a bunch of guys we've been sparring really hard, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Just a couple more things. Like, there obviously isn't a ton of fighters from Israel like in the big promotions. Like, what's it like for you to kind of be representing Israel on the big stage of the UFC?
It's awesome. There is a pressure that comes with it, but for me, it's mainly like a strengthening type. I'm getting a lot of messages, a lot of support from my people, and I'm doing my best to represent well.
And then just last thing, like, what is kind of the goal then for you next year?
My goal for next year, I'd love to fight 3 times in the UFC. Of course, I want to finish this year with a big win, and then get another contract next year, and get a bunch of fights.
Well, Natan, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.